you very much for joining us. Say what you want to say, but you cannot continuously leave your seat vacant and insist without a formal invitation you actually do not know that you're needed at the Privileges Committee. Take steps to contact the Privileges Committee because you are paid as a Member of Parliament. The charge coming from the Member of Parliament for Bwem and Member of the Defence and Interior Committee of the House, Kofi Adams. The comment follows a seeming public outcry over the conduct of the MP for Dom Kwabenya, Adwoa Sarfo, ahead and after she been invited by the Privileges Committee over her continuous absence in Parliament. Kofi Adams does not think that Madam Sarfo's explanations are tenable. He spoke to parliamentary correspondent Philip Asian.
Let me say that it's unfortunate that this matter has come to this point. Let me also say that we have laws that must be obeyed. You fill a form to be elected to represent your people, and you have constitutional provisions and you have standing orders that must be obeyed. And the standing order is very clear as to the number of days one could continuously absent himself or herself from sitting without permission. It means that one can absent himself for as long as it's possible once you ask permission or you are in a state where you cannot just attend to parliamentary business. But in this case, these three absented themselves continually for more than the statutory days, 15 days, without permission. And that is why they have been referred to the Privileges Committee. And the committee is to go into the issues. Before the committee will do its work, they have to invite you. Unfortunately, one of them, as you rightly said, granted interview indicating that she is unaware of the sitting of the Privileges Committee and her invitation. And that is also because she's not been in the country. So if the committee have not proven that, maybe we send her an SMS or we got her address outside and mailed her. Because when you are traveling out of the country, you feel your address where you can be contacted, and that should be available for possibly the committee to explore. And I believe the committees have ways of working, and they will find a way out and once she's granted interview indicating she has become aware that there is something like that happening, she therefore has a responsibility, especially that she's out there now, having been considered that she's out there without permission. She now has a responsibility to make contact with Parliament and leadership, so she will know what exactly is happening and how she can present herself to be heard. So the committee was given 2 weeks, and unfortunately that time will pass, and they may have to seek extension of time to be able to go into the matters, because if all these persons could not appear before them last week as planned, it means they have to seek for extension for them to be able to do it.
By these happenings and the interview she granted, could it be said that she does not have any excuse any longer about not being aware?
Well, that is, you can say so, especially that the position is that she's out without permission. So it means you have heard something. You must now take steps to find out whether what you are hearing is true or not. Don't wait to say that you must be necessarily served before you would appear. I think that she must also take steps after the interview to find out. She has so many channels through which she can do so. You can speak to the Speaker's office directly. She knows who the chair of the Privileges Committee is, because he's the first deputy speaker that has always chaired that committee. She can reach out to the chair. I believe she was around when the committees were formed, so she knows who the ranking of the committee is. She can reach out to her leadership, the majority group, or if she so desires, she can also reach out to the minority leadership, because they are all part of leadership, to find out how maybe she could make herself available, or which other means she could be interviewed or spoken to. But these days we are in a technological world where you can do Zoom meetings and what have you. So the Privileges Committee could adapt any other means to engage these honorable members if they are not around. Unfortunately, I think almost all of them have not been able to appear before them for one reason or the other.
Okay, Adwoa's case as well, what do you think should happen to her?
Well, we are waiting for her to give reasons because they say it is only when your reasons are not justifiable. So we just have to wait for the Privileges Committee to hear why the three of them absented themselves for the more than the number of days they are permitted to continually be absent from sitting.
Has the absence affected the business of the House?
Well, it has affected in some way, knowing that the numbers are even, 137, 137. The absence of any single person affects any business that calls for numbers. And it is because every number is important, that is why the absence is felt. I'm sure in the past, in the 7th Parliament, members absented themselves continually for even maybe a whole meeting, but you will not recognize because the numbers really were not so important. The NDC had 106, the MPP had 169. So even if 30 of them were absent, they could still form, and the NDC even walked out. They could still form a quorum to take decisions. They will have 139, which was more than half, to take decisions, not just to even do business. But in today's parliament, the absence of just one person and a walkout by the other will affect you in taking decisions. And so the absence of members is felt, and it's also seen by the constituents and Ghanaians in its entirety who sent us here to work for them.
Member of Parliament for Worm constituency Kofi Adams in that interview with parliamentary correspondent Philip Osiawo, and as Mr. Adams talks, the embattled Member of Parliament for Dom Kwabenya, Adwoa Sarfo, has been dropped from the Environment, Science and Technology Committee of Parliament and has been made a member of the Poverty Reduction Committee of the House. Adwoa Sarfo is one of the high-ranking casualties in a reshuffle of parliamentary committees as contained in the latest committee selection report. And Philip Osiawo joins me in the studio to talk about this development and if indeed it has anything to do with her absentee status as being alleged. Philip, can you tell us, based on the information available to you, the latest on this reshuffle?
Right, so as you've rightly said, that she was actually moved from the Committee of Environment, Science and Technology to the Poverty Reduction Committee of the House. This was announced by the Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodompre last Thursday, speaking on the floor of Parliament. Now, we do know that this she's not the only one who was actually affected by this exercise, but she was the one that got the most attention, given the fact that she has been away for a long time. There have been calls for sanctions, and this latest move will, of course, get people questioning. But according to what I have gathered, this has got nothing to do with what people are describing as a punishment, given the fact that all the committees of Parliament have a role to play. And so if you were not in a committee at all, that could have been said to be a punishment of a sort. But as far as this concerned, this is a reshuffle, and the explanation that I have also been giving is the fact that the recomposition of the committees, of course, is in accordance with orders 151, 152 and 193 of the standing orders of the House, and is necessitated by the fact that some chairpersons and members of some committees have been appointed as ministers of state, regional ministers, and also deputy or serving in other boards as well. And so the recomposition needs to come so that the committees could become very vibrant. And so this has not got to do with absenting itself. If you look at the list that came, aside from the Honorable Adwoa Sarfo, who has been moved from the Committee of Environment, Science and Technology to the Poverty Reduction Committee, there is also another person, the Honorable Musa Abdulaziz. He has also now been replaced with the Honorable Bright Wekubrobe, and you can see that these are notable personalities there as well. And so this is said to be a normal exercise that has been undertaken by the leadership of Parliament.
Nonetheless, is it fair to say that this is a demotion of a sort?
Well, I don't think this is a demotion, and both personal impression and also what I gathered when I spoke to the leadership as well, I did not think this is a demotion. In as much as some of the committees usually get a spotlight in the work that they do. For instance, anytime an appointment or a nomination is made by the president, you would have them appear before the appointments committee, and so you would have them being on the spotlight. The finance committee deals with issues of budget and also transactions and also other issues of fiscal interest to the nation, and so there's a lot of spotlight. So some of the committees are usually out there in the media, always in the news because of the sensitive and controversial issues that borders around their work. But some of these committees, like the Poverty Reduction Committee as well, when strengthened, is something that is also very vital in contributing to Parliament's oversight role and also to contributing to the development of the country or democracy. And so this cannot be a demotion, but the legislators usually have an interest where they want to be or which committee they want to be. So it is not clear if consultations were made with Adwoa Sarfo on whether she wanted to move from the Environment, Science, Technology Committee to the Poverty Reduction Committee, because when MPs come to the House, their background usually influence where they want to be. So if someone has a finance background, he's more likely to want to be on the finance committee. If the person was an educationist, the person is more likely to be on the education committee. And so what is not clear for me is whether she was moved against her will or there were some backroom deliberations that resulted in this. But as you do know, it's been very difficult reaching her, and so it might take a while for us to be able to hear from her on this.
Before we wrap up the conversation, you just talked about the need to strengthen the new committee that Adwoa Sarfo has been placed on. How are the MPs responding to the criticism of, okay, look at the work she did at the Gender and Social Protection Ministry and even within her own constituency? If you want to strengthen a committee, is that where to put her?
Well, the argument or what their position have always been is that the parameters surrounding the committees is different from what the ministries operate with. At the committee level, everything is bipartisan, and so you would have the majority members and the minority members coming together to look at issues. And on the part of Parliament, it is more of an oversight role, but not the generator of initiatives or policies. But that is what happens at the ministry level, where the government initiates a policy and uses use the ministry to be able to advance that. But in Parliament, it's different. They rather receive, scrutinize, and have oversight on that. And so it's not a one-man show, or the burden is not on an individual or a deputy, but this is a bipartisan role. And even after the committee has performed, they have to come back to plenary to get the general approval, otherwise deliberation of whatever is on the table. So the parameters really are different in that regard. Having
said that, how far were the sittings by the Privileges Committee over issues of absenteeism regarding Adwoa Sarfo and the other two MPs?
Well, we do know that as it stands now, the 2 week timeline cannot be met, given the fact that the 3 MPs are yet to have their turn with the Privileges Committee. The last time I checked, the Honorable Henry Kotti had actually appeared before the committee, but the nature of the House, the sitting had demanded the presence of the First Deputy Speaker, Joseph Osowusu, who is the chair of the Privileges Committee. The fact that the Speaker wanted to excuse himself, and so he was needed in chamber, had to force the committee to also postpone because the chair was needed in chamber. And the proposed time, which was 3 p.m., also did not favor the Iowa Central MP, who also doubles as the Greater Accra Regional Minister, because there was also another ministerial engagement. And so we are looking forward to another timeline. And we do know that the comments by Adwoa Sarfo is that she has not been also invited, she's not in the know. But we heard Kofi Adams saying that now she has a responsibility because the media outfit informed her to reach out to that. So as far as the exercise or the Privileges Committee's work is concerned, they are yet to meet all 3 and also send their report to the House.
Thank you very much.